Now, after having gone through Taylor's principles and techniques in detail, it's high time we give a link and continue with Henry Fayol's principles of management. In link to the classical school of management thought, Fayol's administrative theory provides an important link, while Taylor succeeded in revolutionizing the working of factory shop flow in terms of devising the best method. Here Henry Fayol explains the managerial, it's written down here, the managerial efficiency, what a manager wants. You have to see from the managerial manager's point, what amounts to a manager's work and what are the principles he should be following to do that particular work. So, you have to look into his skills, managerial efficiency, as well as what are the principles he will be following. Okay. So, we refer to Henry Fayol as the father of administrative manager, and he is also called as the father for his contribution. He is also called as father of general management for his contributions whatever he has done in the field of management. Students, you might find it difficult to memorize all the 14 principles laid by Henry Fayol. So, by way of a mnemonic, where we have a mnemonic given here, where a child is asking his dad, very simple, Dad, you see USSR? Dad will reply, oh, I see. So, there are 14 letters given out here. Now, these 14 letters forms the 14 principles of Henry Fayol. It's noted down here, the first one being division of work, the second that stands for D. A stands for authority and responsibility, D stands for discipline, U stands for unity of command. Then you got C, which stands for centralization and decentralization. Next, you have got U standing for unity of direction, S stands for scalar chain, S again stands for stability of tenure. Then ninth one, that's R, stands for remuneration. The 10th one being O for order, I for initiative, S for subordination of individual interest into the organizational or the general interest. Next one being equity, and the last one E, which stands for esprit de corps. Now, let us go on looking into each one in detail. The first one, you have the first principle, that is division of work. You have got division of work, which is given as the first principle. According to Fayol, the intention of having division of work is to produce more and get better work for the same effort. A simple principle, what you do? You divide it. The intention is what? To have division of work. Why? So that you produce more and better work is got for the same effort. So, here he targeted at specialization, how? Through division of labor. So, it will be division of labor, and specialization. Division of labor and specialization. Now, if you are going to just assume this is a factory place, okay. Now, if all are placed in one place, can there be division of work? No, all will be given the same type of job, everyone is doing the same type of job. So, there is no scope for specialization at all. But in the same workplace, if you just make a little of changes, that is, you just divide it into different sections or different departments, where each one is given an area. Maybe this is A, B, C and D. Each one is given the area where he or she is specialized. So, you first of all divide the job. One particular work is divided into smaller components or smaller tasks, and each task is given to an individual worker in which he or she is specialized. So, when they are given with their area of specialized job, there is 100% guarantee that they are going to give out their best and you are going to get 100% efficiency. So, here their main intention was, the main intention of division of work was first to divide the jobs into smaller tasks. Divide the job into smaller tasks. Next, to have specialization. So, division of work is obviously going to lead into specialization. Have lesser of wastage. Lesser of wastage, and the last one was to reduce the risk. Last one was to reduce risk. So, no one wants to take unnecessary risks unless and until it is sudden. You have to face it, and then if a position comes that you have to face it, then you face it. Otherwise, you always see to it that you can avoid the risk. So, he mainly wanted, what is the first one? He wanted one big job to be divided into smaller tasks, division of work. So, when it is divided into smaller jobs, each one, he or she is given the specialized job in which he or she is specialized. So, you have it, specialization is there. After that, to reduce the wastage. So, when one person knows what is the exact amount he has to come out with the output, he or she is going to see that there is no wastage in the work. Last one would be to reduce the risk. So, they will try to see that they avoid facing risks. We move on to the second one, that will be authority and responsibility. According to Fayol, authority is the right to give orders. So, what is authority? It is the right to give orders. This is the manager and this is the subordinate. The subordinate. Here you have got responsibility, you have got authority, responsibility and accountability. So, when we start with authority, authority is the right to give orders. You are giving orders to whom? You are giving orders to your subordinate. Once you give orders to your subordinate, it will work out only when he follows it. So, he has to obtain obedience. The subordinate has to accept it and follow it. So, first part, authority would be the right to give orders and the obedience to that order. Responsibility. What actually is responsibility? Responsibility is the obligation to complete the job what is assigned to him on time. That who has to look into? The subordinate. So, the manager will be having the authority to give order to his subordinate, and in return the subordinate will have to get the work done with responsibility. That is, he should see to it that he is not wasting time or is not wasting any resources. So, he is under that obligation. He has to see that whatever job is assigned to him, it is done on time. Only then can both be working in mutual understanding with each other. For each work, the subordinate is accountable to the manager. Ultimately, manager will be accountable to the management or the higher authority in their organization. So, only when both authority and responsibility go hand in hand will there be smooth flow of work. So, from this it is very clear, authority is the right to give orders to your subordinates. When you are given order, is that sufficient? No, he has to oblige and have the obedience to follow it. Once he is accepted to do the job, then he will be undertaking or performing the job which is assigned to him, and he is to finish the job in the given time without any wastage. So, now here if you see a situation, authority without responsibility, authority without responsibility. without responsibility. Another situation, responsibility without authority. Without authority. So, these two situations, one is authority without responsibility. What does it lead to? What does it lead to? It will always lead to irresponsible behavior. Here, it is going to lead to irresponsible behavior. So, you have the authority, but no one is following your rule, your order. It is of no use. And responsibility without authority leads to what? Ineffectiveness. It will lead to ineffectiveness. So, both these cases are dangerous. You cannot be irresponsible, neither can you be inefficient. So, this was the second point. Moving on to the third part, that is discipline, a very important one. You have got discipline. Now, what is discipline? It is the obedience, okay? It is the obedience, the application, the obedience, the application, the behavior, and respect, shown by the employees. So, here discipline factor, when you are taking that point into mind, it has to have obedience, you have to apply it, the behavior and the respect the employee shows towards his manager. In any place you just see, whether it is an institution, okay, whether it is a hospital, whether it is an office or whether it is an organization or a factory place, each and every place you need to have discipline. Only when there is a discipline or an orderliness in the job can there be a smooth flow of all the work. When there is lack of discipline, there is too much of confusion, conflicts, you do not know who has to do what job, it is not done at the right time and at the right wanted time. So, it becomes a problem for everything. So, you have to always see that when your manager, he gives you order that you are supposed to do this job, you should have the obligation of obeying that. Only when you obey can you apply it. Okay, you have agreed that I will be doing this job. After you have agreed, you will be doing the job. And your behavior, how you are behaving, may it be manager or may it be the subordinate or the worker, both have to know how they are supposed to behave. Manager cannot be too harsh or too rude always. It all depends on the time. At that particular time, how he behaves with his subordinate or with his worker. Same way worker, though he might be stressed sometimes, he cannot show his arrogance, cannot show his anger on the manager. If that is going to take place, it will give out more of problems. So, what happens is, there is, just on a lighter note, discipline is doing what you are supposed to do, and it is done when you know you do not want to do it. Sometimes your mind is not in a position to accept it and do the job, but you cannot always do what your mind is saying. You have to see the situation. When the situation is demanding, you are supposed to do the job. Only then there can be discipline. Now, there will be two types of discipline. Under discipline, if I am going to take, there are two types. One will be self-discipline. Another is going to be command discipline. Okay, self-discipline and command discipline. Now, what is self-discipline? It comes from within an individual. Okay, I have to behave this way when the work, and I have to get the work done on time. So, you yourself are ready to do it in that way. Be self-disciplined. Whereas command discipline is what? When someone is expressing that with authority through rules, through regulations and through custom. So when someone is commanding and telling you, you are supposed to do it, maybe it is the rules what they have to follow, or through the regulations, or through the various guidelines given. So when you are supposed to do that, it is command discipline. And we expect that all the personnel, whoever is working in an organization, needs to be disciplined. Moving on to the fourth point, unity of command. Fourth one, unity of command. Now, according to Fayol, there should be only one person who can give command to an individual employee. So, according to Fayol, there should be only one person for every individual employee who can be commanded by that particular person only. One individual cannot serve two heads. So, it is according to this particular principle, one person to command. Command who? An individual employee. Never can two persons give command. So, an individual can never serve two bosses at the same time. One person, one boss. If there are two bosses, it will always lead to confusion and conflicts. It will lead to more of confusions, misunderstanding, and conflicts. As it is shown here, it is the way you are commanding. This is the right. This one is the manager. Here there are this is only one manager. Here there are two managers, and these are the subordinates. Now, the right way is shown here. There is one manager who is giving commands to his three subordinates. Whereas, in the other picture, you can clearly see the wrong way. There are two heads, and both of them are giving directions to the subordinates or to the employees or to their workers. What happens here? The picture itself shows you so much of confusion. There are more chances when two people are directing or giving you commands as to how you are going to do your job, it leads to more of confusions. You don't know whose words are correct and whose words are wrong. You don't know whose commands to follow, whose not to follow. You cannot displease the other person. So, each one is intending to please his boss. So, when that is the criteria, there will be confusions, more chances for misunderstanding. You know both the managers cannot stand each other if that is the case. If there are two managers who cannot stand each other. So, what happens? The subordinate or the employee or the worker will take full chance of this particular situation, and he may start creating misunderstandings between both the managers by carrying tales, unwanted tales, and it will lead to more of misunderstanding. Next, there are chances of having conflicts of ideas. Two persons can never think the same at the same time. Each one's thinking is different. Each one's ideology is different. So, it never matches sometimes. When that is there, all the three things, that is confusion, misunderstanding and conflicts will arise, and it will lead to the downfall of the organization. So, there should be unity of command. Moving on to the fifth one, that is unity of direction. You have got the fifth one. Unity of direction. So, here this person represents the manager and these represent the employees. These will represent the employees. So, in a particular organization, there should be unity of direction. That is, all units of an organization should be moving towards the same objective. Unity is to be together. So, when you are giving directions, it should be such that all are moving in the same direction. Here, the manager is guiding them to move in that direction. All the subordinates are focused on reaching that particular target. So, even within an organization it is so. All the units whichever is there present in the organization are moving towards reaching the same organizational objective. Through what? Through consolidated coordination and efforts. So, through their consolidated, combined, joined together. So, with their combined or consolidated or a combination of both, that is your coordination and efforts, and each group of activities should have the same objective. Next, only one head should have one plan. One head, one plan. You cannot have too many people giving you directions as to how you have to go about. It will only lead to confusion. Now, if for instance, you want to move from your college to a shop which is a little far. You do not know which directions to go about. Without knowing the directions, can you just get up and go? No, because it will lead to confusion. You don't know which way to travel. So, if you want guidance, you take the assistance of one person. It's better to take the assistance or guidance of one person as to what is the direction you want to go to. If you are going to ask 10 people will give their 10 opinions to you, 10 ways or 10 directions, which will again lead to confusion. So, to avoid all those things, ask one person and move ahead. So, here you have got one head who is going to tell you one plan as to how you have to go about. When this is there, there will be unity of action and coordination. Unity of action. Unity of action and coordination. So, when all are combining and doing the job in unity and moving in the same direction, there are chances that there is no confusion. What you want to, what is the work you want to do, you know, you are all moving towards that end only with everyone's help. Next, let us move on to the next point, the sixth one. The sixth one being subordination of individual interest to general interest or group interest. Very simple from this chart, from this particular picture, that you have to forego your individual interest. When you are working for an organization, your aim is organizational goal and not what is your individual aim or goal. So, here you have to go by the general interest, that is the organizational interest. The aim would be to see that the interest of the organization takes priority over what? Priority over individual interest. So, your general interest should take priority over individual interest. Here you can see each individual or each of the subordinate is moving where? Ultimately to see that the organizational or general interest is met. They forego or they sideline their particular interest and go in for meeting the organizational or the general interest. So, priority over the individual interest. Second, we have to focus here is to reconcile the individual and general interest. So, you have to reconcile with the individual as well as the general interest. If it is not possible, then what? If not, your individual interest should be sacrificed. If not, individual interest has to be sacrificed. So, you cannot be looking into your personal interest there. Personal preferences cannot be given in an organization. When you are working for the organization, you have to see for the benefit or uplift of the organizational goals and not your personal goals. Now, here the factors like laziness, being lazy or selfish, okay, or careless has to be reduced if you have to meet your organizational goals. All these have to be set aside. You have to become more energetic, more active, and see to it that you reach the achieved or whatever aimed target is. Okay. We are moving on to the next one. The next principle, the seventh one, being remuneration. Seventh one being remuneration. Now, everyone works for remuneration. I think no one will join a duty or report to a job or be working under someone just for social service, unless and until you have a mindset of doing charity or working for free. So, your main intention or aim is to earn something. So, everyone will expect a remuneration in return for the work rendered by them to the organization. So, here remuneration of the employees should be fair. First one you have to focus on, should be fair, should be reasonable, and should be satisfactory. So, these things have to be taken into consideration. One is, it has to be as per the existing rate, whatever is the rate, as per the existing rate, whether the employee or the worker is getting his pay, the remuneration in return for the work rendered by him. Is it reasonable to meet his present expenses, personal expenses, and whether he is satisfied. This is most important. You have to be satisfied if you have to put in or give in your best. If you are not satisfied with the remuneration what you are giving, your mindset will be such that you will not be giving up your best. Something will be stopping you. Okay. Next one, it should be giving him maximum satisfaction. When a worker is fully satisfied with whatever he is getting in return, will he be happy and will he be putting his more efforts, working with full enthusiasm and zeal and putting his best. So, if that has to be there, he should be remunerated in the best way. Next one, if you imagine he is not satisfied. So, if you are satisfied, your best, he gives out his optimum or maximum. If he is satisfied with the remuneration he is getting. If he is not satisfied, dissatisfied, what will dissatisfaction lead to? More number of employee turnover. Employee turnover. Do you think it is favorable for an organization? I think it is not. So, when a employee or a worker is not satisfied with the remuneration what he is getting, there are every chances that he might quit the job. If you have employees or workers quitting the job then and every now and then, it will lead to employee turnover which is not favorable to the organization. Because when a person is already set in his job, the experienced person, if he is just leaving the job because he is not remunerated well, it is going to create more problems for the organization, because if this person is going to quit, another new person is going to be appointed who has to be taught from the beginning, and so much of expenses will again be involved there, or cost will be involved there. So, to have a stoppage to this, you have to see to it that the workers or the employees are not dissatisfied, and the employee turnover, that is keep on changing of the employee, do not take place. Next one being, the 8th one being centralization and decentralization. Centralization and decentralization. Now, what actually is a centralized organization? Everything which goes on giving importance to the manager only, all the authority and the responsibility is with the manager. Where everything which goes to increase the importance of the manager. So, everything is in the hands of manager. He is not letting out his authority a little bit, he is not even dispersing a little of authority or responsibility to his subordinates. That position is said to be centralized one. Now, here only the top level one, all the authority and responsibility is catered in the hands of the manager. His subordinates have to just follow the director. So, it is a downward arrow showing all the work has to be done as per the instruction whatever is given by the manager here. Whereas, in the decentralized case, here you give importance to your subordinates too. So, you disperse a little of your authority and responsibility here. He gives here, and then he is giving a little of charge to his subordinates here, so that they can take initiative at some particular point of time. So, this is the difference between centralized and decentralized. Now, each communicator going up here, when you have to communicate about doing jobs, smaller firms have centralized work, centralization in the organization. Larger firms have decentralization in the organization, because in the larger firm a manager will be in charge of many departments. So, when he is not in a position to shoulder all the responsibility, shoulder all the authorities and responsibility in his shoulder, he just lets out a little of, or disperses a little of his authority and responsibility to some of his subordinates in delegating the job. Okay. Next, let us now, this sense what happens when he is delegating the authority to his subordinates, what happens? They feel, they sense that even they belong, they are a part of it. Okay. When they feel they are a part of it, they have a sense of belongingness, and they feel that they are reliability. So, they put in their maximum, because they sense that we also belong, we are a part of this organization, we have been given certain responsibilities. They feel more secured and a sense of comfort. So, they have a sense of belongingness and reliability. Now, looking on to the next point, the scalar chain. 9th one being scalar chain. Now, in scalar chain, there should be, like you can see, as you can see in this picture, it is in a straight line. So, if directions has to be given, it will follow from the top level to the lower level. Okay. So, A has to give guidance or guidelines or his orders to B, B will give it to C, and then C will pass it on to D. From here, if you are from this side, if you are going to say A to E, E to F and F to G. It cannot directly move from A to D or A to G here, or if the lower level have to give their grievances or tell their problems, D cannot directly go and approach A. D has to tell his problems to C, C to B and B to A. So, here in a scalar chain, there should be a scalar chain of authority and communication. So, authority and communication. Authority, there should be a scalar chain of authority and communication. From where? From the highest to the lowest. Okay? So, from the highest level to the lowest level. To the lowest level. Each communicator going up or coming down must follow through each position in the line of authority. As I told you that time, it has to follow from A to B, B to C and C to D. Directly A cannot give directions to D or D cannot directly approach A. So, this line of authority has to be followed in scalar chain. Next, in case of emergencies, only in case of emergencies, you just have a bridge, that's gangplank. Now, what is gangplank? Only in case of emergencies or contingencies, the managers or the subordinates at the same level can get together to solve a problem. If a problem has crept up, then they can get together and solve the problem. Otherwise, they have to follow this chain from highest to lowest. Only in cases of emergencies or contingencies, then they can bypass that straight line and meet at the same level to come to a solution to a problem. It can be short circuited.